So, Black Midi's back with a new record titled Hellfire. I haven't covered or really spoken about Black Midi in this channel, and it's kind of strange because they're one of the biggest voices when it comes to the prog rock genre, especially the prog rock slash jazz genre, and especially noise rock. But behind the scenes, I did listen to Cavalcade, which did come out last year. I remember hearing it around the release date, sort of around the time it came out. And I think I appreciated the record more than what I really enjoyed. Not to say it's a bad record, but at the time I guess wasn't in the zone to really enjoy a record of that magnitude. Fast forward to 2021, and Black Midi has been giving us sort of a taste of what Hellfire was to be. I mean, we had tracks like Welcome to Hellfire, Eat Men Eat, and even Sugar Sue. And I gotta say, those three singles had me extremely hooked and intrigued and really just anticipating this record as a whole. I mean, given this track is only 10 tracks and the runtime is 38 minutes, it's honestly mind-blowing how superb a lot of these tracks performed. The track Sugar Zoo gives you sort of arena type of vibe at the beginning and then transition to this very beautiful jazz, sort of a mellow, chill progression to then literally transition into an extremely fast sort of bebop type of tempo with these fast-pacing drums, these crazy saxophones, and then later on progressing with these extremely fast guitar riffs that just really layer it nice with this track. The track Eat Men Eat, at first glance seems kind of ridiculous because it's like, why are you putting something about food in this record? But the more you start hearing it and the more you start hearing the performance and the lyrics and stuff like that, everything just blends in so nicely. And it's sort of conveying this act of desperation as like eat, as in like take everything you can grab, as some sort of desperation. And I like that outside of the crazy guitar riffs that are going around in this track, the progression, like this song just keeps on evolving, becomes more chaotic and feels like more of a sentiment, as I said, of desperation, just starts becoming even more bigger and bigger and bigger. I just love the whole sentiment of it. It gives you something like that, and I'm pretty sure it has a deeper meaning. There's probably a huge metaphor that is attached to the concept of this record, and I probably haven't thought of it completely. But from what I can grab from this track is just the entire passion and the entire vulnerability that this person has. Track Welcome to Hellfire, it's quite literally a welcome to Hellfire. I mean, the whole track, aside of I said Eat Men Eat sounded chaotic and just disruptive, this one just sounds completely diabolical. It just sounds grand. It sounds literally what you would expect Hellfire to be. And the lyrics this time are even sharper than the previous tracks. I mean, there's some parts in here that's quite literally a clever critique about the government and how they're sending a bunch of people in the army just for them to die and almost do nothing. I mean, there's two lyrics in here that I really like, which was to kill for your country is what wins a war, and to die for a country is not what wins a war. Those two lyrics really just sums up a lot of the whole sentiment of here. Kind of like saying like, welcome to Hellfire, you signed up for this, you're basically entering hell, like living hell. And I like how they're painting this whole picture of like, there's no open doors, it's like closed doors, it's just madness, it's only dread. And I love how they're painting it. It's like chaotic, as I said, it's chaotic, it's like psychedelic, and it's just absolutely crazy. So after those singles, as I was talking about, going into Hellfire, with the anticipation that I had, it's safe to say that I was not disappointed at all. It really just succeeded, and even a little bit above what I was expecting this album to be. Many of the tracks contained the sound that the teasers were sort of showing us, and chaotic, disruptive, diabolical sound that, as I said, those things were showing us, and at the same time sort of chill and mellow in sub-segments. For example, the track Still, which is honestly, this is sort of an odd way to say this, but out of all the songs in this record, is basically the most chill in quotations. It tells you the idea of like this person sort of like coming into love, coming into a relationship or something, or just presenting it as I'm still gonna be with you, but just the later half segment of this transitions into a complete paradox, and it just sounds, while glorious, it sounds like absolutely just terrifying to listen to. It really is terrifying, but in a good way, I guess you could say. And yes, that's like the most chill song, I guess, this entire record. As I said, there's some segments that sound like absolutely beautiful jazz masterpieces, and there are some other segments where it sounds like chaotic, destructive, diabolical destruction. The concept of this record is a bit back and forth, but I think it's played out smoothly for the entire 10-track length that this record carries. I think the biggest focus this record carries is you know, sort of presenting us in these situations, in these sort of tales, whether it be sort of very fantasy driven, like as I said in the beginning, Eat Men Eat, or I guess more serious, like Welcome to Hellfire, sort of put you like in this everyday life scenario, exaggerated or non-exaggerated, and how in these particular tales, these are mostly tales of sins. The smallest sins are the biggest sins. I believe the track Dangerous Liaisons is quite literally a sort of a murder confession, like a cold-blooded murder confession from this complete lunatic. And I like how they're sort of playing like sort of different personas, acquiring to different tales, just to fit, as I said in the beginning, the concept of sin, of how big the sin is. Aside of that, the track alone just complements the psychotic nature of the song, with the crazy production going on, the surreal production, the saxophones and horns that are just going over and crossing each other, the insane, ridiculous piano chord production that just lays over in this track. It's really just a whole blast. The track that is about to begin is what I would believe is what a person with dementia suffers, because 2 minutes in this track, I think 2 or 3 minutes in this track, we get a whole vomit of words going on. I think it's like super fast rapping, like Eminem type of rapping, I think for a minute or two straight, and this guy is not taking a breath. He is just going in and in and in. And the cool thing about it is that I can understand we can understand almost any single word that he's saying. I mean, sure, there's some parts where it's like your mind kind of blanks at a point, but you can really understand the whole sentiment, you can really understand the whole narrative that this track wants to carry on, or does this point of view. I mean, he even says that he forgot which cup he pisses on, or his neighbor, or just describing these very weird, random bits of his memory or just environment that he's surrounded in. And part of it is just chilling and kind of scary, but parts of it sounds kind of realistic. As I said earlier, there are some moments in this album where the production just becomes absolutely beautiful and just really jazzy and chill and mellow, as the track that defends the whole aesthetic and just sonically speaking is so soothing. The vocal performance is outstanding. Like, you can just the high pitch that he goes for is crazy. The mere fact that he can handle it so perfectly is just even crazier. And even with it being very chill and very mellow, there's this part of it just feels like melodramatic. Sometimes in this record, the shift in the narrative wise can go third person or first person, as in the first track, Hellfire. It's almost like they were speaking in the third person type of sentence. It's like, we're now gonna illustrate you all these tales, so it's like, be ready, you know, and be prepared or something like that. It just gave me a sort of like sensation and vibe of like an art, like an arena type, or like sort of like you're sort of watching these like collection of stories. It kind of reminds me of a certain film that I forgot the name, but I'm pretty sure there's a film. It reminds me of a Tarantino film. Like like every track's like a different story or a different stage of X person or just X personality or whatever they're going on. Like each tale gets more intense and intense and intense and intense as it progresses. So we like that the track Halftime sort of has like this announcer type of vibe to it, like almost like Dawn FM. The final track that ties in perfectly this entire record, 27 Questions, which ironically enough, there's not 27 questions in this song. Apparently he feels a bit, because his chest feels a bit tight. That's one of the lyrics of the song. I know it's a bit nerdy joke, whatever. But going back to the track, I think it's honestly a perfect way to finish off this record. So the overall question, some of the multiple questions that he asks, that, you know, each question gets more bizarre and just kind of stupid at points, is, you know, is there really such a thing as a perfect life without sin? Is there really such a perfect, I guess, thing, as I said, a perfect life without committing a sin? Because, I mean, we're all sinners. We're all kind of like born sinners. Because, I mean, we're all kind of born to make mistakes, and it does bring up that question, as in, are we really perfect? You know, can we really not get our hands stained? I like how on this track, you know, sonically speaking, it just progresses almost like it's just getting bigger and more grandiose, and it's bigger, like, with these strings are sort of playing in the background, and it's sort of building up until like these last 30 or 20 seconds of just cutting straight back into Hellfire and just bringing us back those dangerous guitar riffs, those explosive drums, and just the whole sentiment as you're still trapped in Hellfire and you're never getting out. I know it sounds really creepy, it sounds really disturbing as how I'm describing it, but I don't know why, but personally for me it just sounds kind of cool sonically, and just tying up the entire narrative and just finishing this entire record, it just sounds really cool. I guess the only critique that I have with this record is that sometimes the metaphors or lyrics are sometimes a bit harder to understand at certain points, and maybe sometimes it doesn't match that well with the prior literature sentiment. It kind of like sort of leaves you like, okay, where is he going with in this particular segment of the track? That's really the only critique or criticism I have with this entire record. Aside of that, this record just flawlessly executes what prog rock is, what prog rock / jazz is, how experimental it can be, and just it just takes the hype to an entire different set. So far, this record just seems to be a contender for possibly my favorite experimental rock or prog rock release of the entire year. There's some tracks in here where I just stare at it and marvel, and I'm like, how did they accomplish this? Like, how did they have the brain power or idea to execute it, and execute it exactly as this, like the sound in general? How did they manage to execute it? I know they're Black Midi, I know they're known for doing a lot of weird, crazy things, but this thing right here is complete chaos, madness, and I've never heard anything like this at all. So yeah, what would I give Hellfire by Black Midi? Honestly, I'm feeling a really strong 9 on this one. But anyway, what do you guys think about this album? Did you guys love it? Did you guys hit it? Let me know in the comments down below. Also, remember subscribing, turn notification bell on so you don't miss an upload from me. Like this video if you enjoyed this review as well. And yeah, see you guys next time. Peace out and stream Hellfire.